Hi, this is a support video for some aspects of the eClass gradebook. Specifically, we'll be looking at aggregating grades into groups, for example, putting all of the quiz marks together. We'll be looking at dropping the lowest grade from a group, so counting all but the lowest quiz mark, for example. And we'll be looking at how to make the layout of these grades look a bit more sensible and manageable from a student's perspective. So I will be using this class, my phonetics class from the upcoming winter semester, as a way to illustrate this. So first of all, we get to the gradebook. There are two ways to do that. One is through the gear icon here in the upper right. If you click that and you go to gradebook setup. The other is using this toggleable menu in the upper left. Right? We can click those sort of three bars on the white rectangle to get this menu here and the grades item there. Either of those will get us to the right general area. So in the gradebook, the first place that we see is this grader report. Now, if I were to scroll down, I would see all of my students listed in rows, and the columns would be all of the grade items that I've included. Every time I create a quiz or an assignment submission object in eClass, it becomes an entry here. I'm not going to do that because eClass has already started populating my students, and I don't want to show you their names and IDs and whatnot. But you can scroll down, you can sort by name, by initials if you have a large group of people, and so on. What we're going to do first is we're going to go to the Setup tab. So see, there's two sets of tabs here: View, Setup, Scales, Letters, Import, Export, and then the Grader Report, History, Single View, and User Report. We're going to be using a couple of these. Right now, let's look at the Setup. So if I click that, and now I'm out of the danger zone, so I can maximize this. You're not going to see any student information. Here's all the things that I've got set up in this class. I have a group of transcriptions. There are 3 of those. Altogether, they're worth 15% of the final grade. So I just use percentage as a final grade as the weighting. It does a weighted mean of the grades within the group to get the overall group for example, for transcriptions. So I didn't have to put 5 each here. If I put 1, 1, 1, it would still weight them appropriately within that 15. I have 3 lab assignments, and I have a group of quizzes. I also have a bunch of practice quizzes here. So the first thing, you can see that I've already created categories. I've got a category of transcriptions, a category of lab assignments, a category of quizzes. To show you how that happens, I'm going to create a category for all of these other things, which are all just practice quizzes. They don't actually contribute to the final grade of my students. So I'm going to add a category using that button at the bottom there. I'm just going to call this ungraded quizzes. Okay, there are various ways that you can aggregate. I'm just going to call it a weighted mean, simple mean. It's an ungraded category, so it doesn't really matter for me. Exclude empty grades means that if someone doesn't complete something, that isn't counted towards the average. If you want an incomplete to count to 0, you'd need to uncheck that, and the information there can give you information button, as always, can give you more information about that. There's other things that we can do here, but right now we're just creating the category. What's the category worth as a total? How do we do that? Parent category, and so on. Let's click Save Changes here. Okay, because there are students already registered, every time I do something, it recalculates grades. Even though no one has done anything yet, I'm recording this before the start of term. Okay, so if I scroll down, I see I have a category ungraded quizzes. There's nothing in it. So now I want to pick all the things that go in that. That's going to be, these are out of order. We can fix that as well if we want. But first, let's just select them all of these practice quizzes. And at the bottom, move selected items to ungraded quizzes. Okay, and it's already working on that, recalculating grades, of course. And if I hit continue, Now we have transcriptions, lab assignments, quizzes, and now ungraded quizzes contains all of those items. Right. And you notice that at the top, ungraded quizzes have a 0 weight by default. So that category isn't going to contribute to the final grade of students. Whatever numbers you put in here don't really matter. It's taking them as a weighted average. So you can put zeros. You could put them all as ones, and then students would know what the average score is that they got on their practice material. Some students might like that as a little bit of personal information. Anyway, it's entirely up to you how you set those up. Anytime you make changes, you can hit save. I'll show you while we're at it. I'm not going to go through it all because I put these together in a quite random order, but you'll notice they're out of order. So maybe I want to put the week 2 practice quiz right after the week 1 practice quiz in this readout. I will ultimately want to do that for all of them, just so that students can see these in a bit more rational order. It's not quite as obvious and intuitive an interface as being able to drag them. But what you do, you see these arrows on the side. You click on the arrow. So I've got 1 and 2 in order here. If I click on the arrow for 3, that tells the page that I want to move that. Then it sets up kind of a new version of the page with slots. Do I want to put it here? Do I want to put it there? All the possible places I could put it. I'm going to put it after the week 2 practice quiz. So I click there, and then it puts it in there. It's a bit laborious if you have a lot of things out of order, but it's quite manageable. Okay, so that's how to create a category. If I wanted these to have more weight, you see I can edit any of the weights that I want. I can increase the weights, decrease the weights overall, that sort of thing. Another thing that we want to do, I actually have 6 graded quizzes here. I've got them set up in my syllabus as worth 8% each, and I want to drop the lowest one. So I actually only want to count 5 of them. 5 times 8 would add up to the 40% that I'm going for. So what I want to do is find this category header here, the quizzes, edit. I want to edit the settings of that group. And this is the same interface that you saw when we created a category in the first place. So often you'll do this as you create them. But if you're partway through the semester and you have a bunch of quizzes, you can put them in a group. It'll do all the recalculations on the fly. It won't change any of the grades of the quizzes if you do it. And once you've got that group, hit show more, drop the lowest, this setting enables a specified number of the lowest grades to be excluded from the aggregation. A little exclamation mark here, so it's a bit more of an advanced feature. I want to drop the lowest 1 grade. So there are 6 quizzes, only the top 5 will count. So if I hit save changes here, recalculate. Okay. So now under quizzes, when it says quizzes total weighted mean, weighted by these numbers I put in, which are all the same, drop the 1 lowest value. Okay. Now because the semester hasn't started yet, I don't actually have grades here, so I can't show you that in action, but that is how you drop the lowest single thing. If you have a lot of quizzes and you want to drop 2 or 3, obviously it's pretty straightforward to set that up. Okay, now I'm going to go back to our main course page here. One of the things that, because I have this kind of setup a lot, when I'm in the gradebook and I'm looking at that full table where I have students in rows and I have each column as a separate grade item, a quiz or assignment, that table can look really busy. It's huge for me. I have to scroll laterally to see the last of the items. Of course, I have to scroll vertically if I have a lot of students. And that can feel quite awkward as an instructor. Generally, you don't want to be working in that particular interface. What you want to be doing, and I'm going to have to make this smaller again so that I don't accidentally show you student information. What you want to do, and again, we'll go to the grades view. Instead of having this full grader report, you generally want to work in a single view. Okay, so single view can mean looking at one particular grade item, and you see I have all of my graded items nicely organized. You see the practice quizzes aren't sorted, but that's something I fix in the setup we just looked at. I can look at any one of those, and if I click on it, it'll show me a list of all of the students and what each student got on that particular item. The other thing I can do in the single view is I can select a particular user, and it'll give me a list of everything that user has been graded on and what they got. So there's a lot of options for looking at particular parts of information rather than the whole mess all at once. So that's one thing to do. And another thing that we'll do, let's go back to the main page here. I really do like having the demo student. So if you create a demo student, I'm not going to show that in this video, but it's a neat feature. I'm going to switch to the demo student because then I can show you how it'll look to them. And you can do this yourself in your course. If you're not sure, you know how it looks to you as the instructor. So now, as a demo student, I want to look at my grades. And it's not going to show me the big table because no student gets to see any other student's thing. It defaults to what's effectively the single view for the student. I have, you see the 3 transcriptions, 3 lab assignments, the 6 quizzes. It's showing me the total at the end of each section, and the ungraded quizzes, practice quizzes. Okay, so that's what it'll look like. So if you're not sure what something is going to look like to your students, that's one way to check on it, because the default view as an instructor, as we saw, is that big table, that big unwieldy table, which can seem a bit daunting. I don't recommend that instructors use that table and do their work in that table because it's so unwieldy. You have ways as an instructor to narrow it down to a single graded item or a single student, and you can also use the demo student view or the demo student functionality to view what it'll look like from a single student's perspective. There's a lot of other cool stuff you can do with a demo student as well in terms of test running material that you want to give your students before they see it. Okay. So that's really, and I guess the other thing I want to point out in terms of organization, if you use categories and if you manually check the ordering and adjust the ordering of things in that gradebook setup, then when you're viewing the grades and when students are viewing the grades, all of that organization is automatically incorporated into all of the views. They're put in the right order, they're grouped into categories. It makes it a lot more manageable. Okay, so that's all for this video. We've looked at how to set up categories to organize your graded components. We've looked at how to drop the lowest grade from a group. We've also looked at sorting them along the way. And we've looked at different ways to view the grade information in a more useful way as an instructor, a way that's potentially more useful for supporting your students. So I hope that's really helpful. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.